Welcome to the History of Assyria channel. Christianity spread in Mesopotamia during the era of the Apostles, where the traditions of the Church of the East state that the Apostle Thomas preached Christianity in Parthia on his way to India. In the first 3 Christian centuries, the Church of the East, or the Eastern Syrian Church, consisted of a group of dioceses in Assyria, Babylon, and Persia. The Nestorian faith gave the Church of the East its distinct identity and helped its prestigious theological schools, such as the schools of Nisibis, Erbil, Ctesiphon, Derkani, Jundishapur, and others, to strengthen and consolidate the Christian faith in Mesopotamia, prompting its followers to follow the commandment of Christ, "Go and make disciples of all nations." Trade was one of the most important professions that the Assyrians mastered 1,000 years ago, and through it they transmitted their Christian faith through the Silk Road that passes through Iran and Central Asia to China, and the incense and spice route that passes through the Arabian Gulf and Yemen to India. The Nestorian Christians had strong ties with the Arab Manathira kings in Al-Hira and the Himyar kings in Yemen. Christianity entered early on the banks of the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean, and the Church of the East had 6 dioceses in Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, Al-Ahsa, Kuwait, Hadramaut, Aden, and also on the island of Socotra, where Nestorianism continued until the 14th century. Al-Hira became the capital of Al-Manathira, a large archdiocese of the Church of the East in the 5th century. Dumat al-Jandal was the capital of the Arab kingdom of Kinda, completely Christian, as well as the city of Taima, the capital of the Tai tribe, and Tabuk was the capital of Taghalib, and the Church of the East in Yathrib had a bishop, and they had 3 churches and many followers. In Najran, the Church of the East had a large diocese, whose bishop was the priest Ibn Sada. And the Jewish king of Himyar-du Nuwas killed thousands of them, whom the Quran mentions as the people of the Groove. Al-Jahiz, Al-Yaqubi, and Ibn Qutayba mention the names of dozens of Arab tribes that converted to Christianity, even stating that the entire Arab country was about to join Christianity before the advent of Islam. The historian Mansur bin Sargon, nicknamed John of Damascus, considered that Ismailism, the religion of the Arabs, began as a sect or Christian heresy at the hands of an unnamed Aryan monk. Nestorian Christians took advantage of the ports of Bahrain, Oman, and Persia to reach southern India and the island of Ceylon, where Tamil kings tolerated them. They founded trading settlements, and Bishop Dawood of Basra preached there in the 3rd century. Yusuf al-Rahawi was appointed Bishop of India in 354. The southern Indian region of Malabar became a bishopric after 650. The first Christian center in Malabar was in the city of Granganur, and from there Christianity spread to the Cochin region and northern Travancore province, and they reached the district of Wazirabad in northern India in present-day Pakistan, and Gandispur or Shahabad in present-day Punjab province of India, where there was a bishopric in 893. In 525, the Byzantine traveler Cosmas reported that he had found Nestorian Christians not only in the islands of Socotra and Ceylon, but also in the Kohen region of Malabar in southwestern India, as well as in the Ganges Valley and the Biju region in present-day Bangladesh, and in Siam and Tonquin, the regions of present-day Thailand and Myanmar. Nestorian Christianity in India expanded to the point of sending priests to Mesopotamia to learn theology in its schools. Patriarch Ishudad mentions in 425 that the Acts of the Apostles were translated from Greek into Syriac by Marcomi with the help of the Reverend Daniel the Indian. In 1503, Patriarch Elijah IV said that he had ordained 3 bishops and sent them to India, China, and Dabuk or the island of Java in Indonesia, and the Archdiocese of Java oversaw the dioceses of the Malaysian archipelago in the Strait of Malacca and the island of Sumatra as well. During the reign of Sultan Akbar Mughal, the number of Nestorian Christians in India was estimated at 150,000. But the Portuguese persecuted the Christians of the Archdiocese of Kerala in the Malabar region of India, who burned its manuscript, arrested its priests, and executed them with brutality, especially when the Portuguese brought Catholic icons and statues that aroused the resentment of the bishop of the region, who said, "We are Christians, we do not worship idols." The Church of the East did not tolerate the use of icons and statues for worship in churches or even in homes. The Portuguese forced all Indian Christians to join of the Latin Catholic Church in 1599. In 1653, Bishop Atala, who was sent by the Patriarch of the Church of the East, arrived in India, but was soon arrested by the Portuguese and taken to Goa, where the Catholic Inquisition executed him by drowning in the Indian Ocean on charges of heresy. This led to the rebellion of Indian Christians in what is known as the Conan Cross Oath to boycott Jesuit Catholics. They revolted against the Portuguese with the help of the Dutch in 1670, and the revolution ended with the arrival of the Syriac Jacobin Archbishop Gregory Abdul Jalil, Bishop of Jerusalem, who founded the Syriac Jacobin Church in India and included all Christians there in his church, taking advantage of the interruption of communications between the Church of the East in Asia after the massacres of Tamerlane with the Diocese of Malabar, which was persecuted by the Portuguese. Today, they number 6 million, more than half of whom joined the Syriac Catholic Church, and a small section returned to the Church of the East in 1874. Today, they number 50,000. There are 15,000 members of the Chaldean Catholic Church. In the Church of the East Council in 424, we find the signatures of the bishops of Persia, from the cities of Rai, Isfahan, Ahvaz, Helwan, Sijistan, Nishapur, Herat, Merv, and Samarkand. In the Council of Patriarch Mar Akak in 485, there are mentioned Christian Turks who came to the city of Ctesiphon, the seat of the Church of the East, to elect a bishop. In 498, the Sassanid king Kabad took refuge with the Christian Hun and Turkish tribes in Central Asia because of a revolt against him in Iran. He was accompanied by the Metropolitan of Aran, present-day Azerbaijan, 4 priests, and 2 Christian laity. The Turkish tribes helped King Kabad to regain his throne. As for the Bishop of Iran, he continued to preach Christianity among the Huns, Turks, and Tatars, and his efforts were very successful, and he baptized tens of thousands of Turks. Ilya Metropolitan of Merv, present-day Turkmenistan, said that in 644 he saw large numbers of Turks convert to Christianity. The Byzantine traveler Cosmas stated that in Bactria, Afghanistan, Media, Elam, and all Persia, there were countless churches and had large Christian communities, bishops, monks, and saints who were martyred during the persecutions of the Persian kings, especially the persecution of kings Shapur II, Yazdegerd II, and Bahram IV. In a letter from Patriarch Timothy the Great in 781 to a monk named Sarkis, he mentions the conversion of the Kagan Turks to Christianity, which spread from western China to the Caspian Sea and southern Russia. He described them as true believers in the Lord, living in tents, moving constantly, and they had 4 kings, Gawerk, Gurk, Tasahaz, and Langu. They are all called Tatars, and their homeland name is Sarikon. Each king ruled over 400,000 families, or nearly 2 million people. All of them were under the rule and teachings of the gospel of Christ. He said he had appointed a Turkish bishop and was in the process of appointing another bishop in Tibet, in western China, which indicates the great spread of Christianity in that region as well. In the same letter, he mentions the news of the death of the Metropolitan of China and the appointment of another Metropolitan in his place. In 779, Chinese Emperor Taizong ordered the erection of a memorial obelisk to commemorate an annual meeting held at the expense of one of China's leading Christians, Yisu. The obelisk was placed in the courtyard of a monastery, founded in 638 in Xi'anfu. The obelisk is made of gray limestone, about 2.5 meters high, 86 centimeters wide, and 25 centimeters thick. At the top of the obelisk is carved a pearl held by two snakes. Then comes the title in large Chinese letters, surmounted by a triangular front, showing a cross, meticulously drawn over a cloud surrounded by two lotus roses, symbols of the various religions present in the Chinese capital at the time. The monument was carved and made by the priest King Qing. The inscriptions on the obelisk include topics such as a doctrinal commentary on the history of Christianity in the Chinese capital from 635 to 779, praise addressed to Yisu, poetic praise addressed to the Chinese emperors mentioned in the historical section of the Tang dynasty who were tolerant of Christians, as well as the date of the establishment of this obelisk, and a Syriac Estrangula text mentioning a long list of names of priests and missionaries. Jesuit missionaries discovered this obelisk in 1625 and made copies of it that were sent to Europe. It is currently housed in the Lateran Museum in Rome. This caused a great stir in scientific circles at the time because it indicates the presence of Christianity in China since at least the 7th century. This obelisk provides us with the various stages of the spread of Christianity in China during the reigns of many emperors. It gives us the name of Bishop John at the top of the list of 70 priests mentioned in the obelisk with their various titles and duties in the church. It is mentioned in this obelisk that it was erected during the reign of Patriarch Kananishua II. Some Christians were merchants, artisans, doctors, missionary priests, and the bulk of the local population. Some Christians were able to occupy important positions in China due to their knowledge and culture, and were wealthy. The Chinese historian Peter Saeki states that the numbers of Nestorians in medieval China were great and played a major role in making China's golden age. Their success in China is attributed to their ethics, rich theology, and great knowledge of medicine. It is also reported that the emperors of the Chinese Tang dynasty were not Christians, but were under strong Christian influence. The influence of Nestorianism entered Chinese literature. Christianity spread from the Chinese capital to 6 other provinces, and numerous monasteries were established throughout the empire. The seat of the Chinese bishop was located in the capital Xi'anfu, and sometimes in Luying. In 1294, the Italian monk John of Montecorvino arrived in Beijing, which became the capital of China at the time, and met a large and powerful Nestorian community there, numbering more than 30,000. Historian Peter Saeki mentions that a Nestorian physician named Rimitsu went to Japan and met Emperor Shomu, who ruled between 724 to 748 in the ancient Japanese capital of Nara. Because of the teachings of this Nestorian doctor, the Japanese Empress Komyo converted to Christianity, which was considered by the Japanese to be a great saint. In 1007, a miracle occurred to one of the Carats kings in the region of Mongolia and present-day northern China, where there was a union of Mongol Turkic tribes whose kings were nicknamed the Khanate, where this king was lost during a hunting trip in the snow-covered mountains and lost hope of survival. And suddenly, a man appeared to him who guided him to safety and introduced himself to the king in the name of Mar Sarkis, who convinced him to accept Christianity. After the king arrived at his tent, he communicated with the Nestorian merchants in his kingdom to send to the nearest bishop to his kingdom to come in person, or send priests in his place to baptize this king with 200,000 subordinates of his kingdom. Not only was the Mongol region of Karaites Christian, but neighboring Chinese Kansu also had a strong Christian presence in the 11th century. The traveler Marco Polo recalled that in the city of Karakoram, the capital of Karaites, there was a Nestorian church in which the Franciscan monk William Rubruck was allowed to reside. This monk stated that around Lake Baikal in Siberia, he found the Naimans tribe, which was entirely Nestorian Christian, and whose king was called Khon Cham. In 1281, the Mongol bishop Yehbala became patriarch of the Church of the East during the reign of Khan Abaka. In western China, in the province of East Turkestan, its capital was Kashgar, which was an important Nestorian Christian center, and the traveler Marco Polo recalls that half of its population was Christian. In 1180, 2 bishops were appointed to this city, the first of whom was John, who died, and followed by Sprushua. The traveler Marco Conti wrote about a kingdom 20 days from Cathay, in eastern China, whose inhabitants and kings were all Nestorian Christians. The monk Rubruck recalled that he had found Christians in all the countries he visited in Asia. Spaniards said they found Christians in the Philippines when they arrived. Thus, the Church of the East in the Middle Ages became the largest church in the world, and the number of its followers, estimated at tens of millions, exceeded the number of followers of the Roman and Greek churches combined. Its dioceses spread from Jerusalem to the far east of China, forming the largest organization in history, where the patriarch from his headquarters in Ctesiphon, Al-Madain, and then Baghdad, managed 68 archbishoprics throughout Asia that included hundreds of dioceses, thousands of priests, and countless churches, some of which remain today. These dioceses spread among countries and empires. Several of them were hostile to the other, which made the correspondence between these dioceses and the Patriarch's headquarters a great challenge. This period is considered the golden age of the Church of the East, which established an independent Syriac Christian civilization no less important than the Hellenistic Orthodox civilization in Byzantium and the Latin civilization in Europe. The Church of the East has established a large number of schools and colleges, from which a large number of theologians, philosophers, writers, doctors, and scientists have graduated. The Church of the East spread Christianity in Asia, the home of the oldest religions and civilizations in the world, such as Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, Shinto, and Zoroastrianism, for their deep Christian faith, without states or political entities supporting this church, like the Holy Roman Empire or Byzantium. They had no colonial, political, or material ambitions. They converged with the rulers and established strong commercial and social ties with diverse Asian communities and earned their respect and appreciation. They helped the Sogdi, Turkic, Tatar, Mongol, and Uyghur peoples to write their languages with new Syriac-like writings, and greatly influenced the civilization of the Indians and Chinese of the period. And they were adept at medicine, which they greatly exploited. Missionaries healed kings, rulers, and their families from chronic diseases, and so they were respected by these kings, some of whom converted to Christianity by these missionary physicians and allowed them to preach in their kingdoms. Europeans, such as the Portuguese and the Dutch, persecuted the inhabitants of the countries they occupied, tried to preach Christianity from a position of superiority, pursued Nestorian Christians everywhere, and persecuted them to force them to convert to Catholicism for colonial ambitions, which aroused the resentment of Asians against them. In 1369, the Ming dynasty came to power in China, which severely persecuted Christians and forced them to abandon their religion, as Christianity collapsed in East Asia and could not recover from this collapse. Only many tombstones with a cross mark, some with Syriac writings, remain of Christianity. According to Chinese scholar Peter Sayeki, Nestorians in China invented a new religion known as Qintan Qiao, or the secret of the golden flower, close to the Taoist religion, to hide their Christian faith because of persecution. It currently has 11 million followers. Nestorianism also influenced the Hindus in southern India, who founded a new religion called Bhakti, spread among the Tamils. With the collapse of Christianity in East Asia, Nestorian Christianity in West Asia was struggling to survive with the advent of Islam. In the letters of Patriarch Ishuaib of Adiabene between 649 and 659, we find an echo of the difficulties he faced to maintain his church in Arabia, Persia, and southern Mesopotamia. Christianity was fading away on the coast of the Arabian Gulf, in Oman, Qatar, and Bahrain, and all Mazunite Christians in Oman at that time had become Hajri, as mentioned by Patriarch Ishuaib, so the name of Islam was not found in the early Syriac, Byzantine, and Armenian Christian manuscripts, but they used the names Ismaili, Hajri, and Sarazian. The Patriarch tried to invite the bishops of those areas, but they refused to attend, so the Patriarch clung to the monks in those areas and called on them to adhere to their religion and not obey their bishops. Chaos prevailed in Persia after the invasion of Arab armies. 2 metropolitans and more than 20 bishops refused to attend the Patriarch's council. The Patriarch sent delegations to the metropolitans of Hormozershir and Shushtar, but to no avail. Because of the persecution of the governor of Ctesiphon Madain, Uday bin Harith bin Ruim, Patriarch Ishuaib was forced to take refuge in the Beth Abi monastery near Erbil. The situation of Christians stabilized at the beginning of the Abbasid rule, but with the emergence of Abbasid Islam and the arrival of the Crusades, this led to a wave of violent persecutions. Patriarch Michael the Great wrote what he witnessed at that time. Words are incapable of expressing all the insults, humiliations, and contempt that Muslims have inflicted on the persecuted Christian people in Damascus, Haran, Edessa, Mardin, Mosul, and throughout the kingdom. These persecutions forced many to flee to Central Asia and China, where Christianity flourished because of these migrations. However, the Abbasid Islamic invasions expanded into Asia after a series of defeats to the Umayyads at the hands of the Chinese Tang Empire. In 751, the Battle of Talas took place between the Abbasids and the Chinese, which led to the defeat of the Chinese because of the betrayal of the Calic Turks. Preoccupied with putting down the civil wars in China, the Tang dynasty completely abandoned Central Asia. The 250-year domination of the Abbasids led to the entry of large numbers of Persians, Turks, Tatars, Uyghurs, and Mongols from Buddhism, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, and Nestorian Christianity to Islam, and those who persecuted their Christian compatriots. At the end of the 10th century, Selçuk, the leader of a large Turkish Tatar tribe, converted to Islam and founded the Seljuk Empire in Persia, Anatolia, and Mesopotamia, and served as mercenaries in the Abbasid army. Some historians believe that had it not been for the Seljuks, the Crusaders would have succeeded in completely eradicating Islam in the East. The invasions of Genghis Khan and his successors led to the deaths of millions of Nestorian Christians in Asia. On par with the rest of Asians, historian John Stewart recounts that Muslims who tried to eradicate Christianity from their homelands shared the destruction with them at the hands of the Mongols. We can consider the emergence of the Timurid Turkish Muslim Empire as the most dangerous thing that the Church of the East has faced in its history. Tamerlane, the founder of this empire, was determined to eliminate all non-Muslim religions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, and Christianity. Although he killed millions of Muslims in his barbaric and brutal wars, he targeted Christians and Hindus, and killed millions in northern India, Central Asia, Western China, Persia, the Caucasus, Mesopotamia, Syria, and Anatolia. Nestorian Christianity was completely extinct in Asia, leaving only many tombstones with a cross marked, some of which bear Syriac writings recently discovered in Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and elsewhere. The Europeans also succeeded in Catholizing all the Nestorians in South and Far East Asia. The Church of the East has since been confined to its stronghold in Assyria, as well as the Diocese of Malabar in southern India, where Tamerlane's armies did not reach, and where Tamil kings were tolerant of Christians. However, the Europeans persecuted the followers of the Church of the East in Assyria, similar to the Diocese of Malabar in India between the 17th and 19th centuries, because the Ottomans gave Europeans privileges to protect Christians and organize their affairs. They bribed Kurdish sheikhs to attack the Assyrians and destroy their villages, manuscripts, and religious and literary heritage, forcing them to seek help from those same Europeans who conditioned conversion to Catholicism. Europeans also took advantage of the dire conditions of the Assyrians due to Kurdish attacks by providing financial, food, medical, and educational aid in exchange for their acceptance of Catholicism. They repeatedly tried to offer large sums of money to the Nestorian bishops and patriarchs to renounce their faith. The Europeans also forced the Assyrians of Mosul, who converted to Catholicism, to throw away all the manuscripts of the Church of the East in the Tigris River that were in the church library in Mosul, which were very old and priceless. Thus, the Europeans succeeded in Catholizing all the Assyrian Nestorians in Mosul, Erbil, Urmi, Nusaybin, Mardin, Diyarbakir, and Syria, who founded the Chaldean Church of Babylon. The number of followers of the Church of the East is currently estimated at about 500,000 Assyrians, in addition to the Indian Archdiocese of Malabar, which is estimated to have 50,000 followers. It is likely that without the persecutions of the Ming dynasty in China, the persecutions of Europeans, the Tamerlane massacres in Central and West Asia, and the Assyrian genocide during World War I, the followers of the Nestorian Church of the East would now be estimated at hundreds of millions. Thank you for watching, and do not forget to subscribe to the History of Assyria channel to follow all new